You know, as soon as you open them, they smell like turpentine. Probably no good.
Wow.
I hear 007's theme.
I know.
Well, anyway, welcome to our Wednesday night Bible study. It's a continuation of the book of Habakkuk. And we are in chapter 2, and we've been discussing verse 4. And I'm just going to read it again, just the verse. And I won't go through everything that we did last time. Thank you, God, for your word, and establish it in our heart in Yeshua's name. Thank you for it. Behold, the enemy is puffed up, his desires are not upright, but the righteous person will live by his faithfulness or faith. And pistis can be translated faithfulness or faith. They're really not that different. Okay, if you have faith in something, you're going to be faithful to that. You're going to follow through on that. The whole idea of trust, steadfastness, they're pregnant terms. So it's faith is not just believing. Faith is grabbing hold of something that you trust and investing yourself and following through on what that faith says. So that means that your life demonstrates what your faith is. Your life is going to demonstrate what you really believe in, and if your life doesn't demonstrate the values that you're purporting, then you really don't. You're not faithful to that, and you don't have faith in that. So it's a way to check ourselves. Stability, certainty, permanence, all these are like cognates, and they're translated variously in various places in the scripture. But those are the meanings. The upright are those that go straight. Yashar means to go straight, right? Yashar koach, right? Go straight, just so, just like that, straight. So when you think about these things, think about it holistically. The Bible, I know we like to divide mankind up into three parts and whatnot, but it's not really like that. Okay, the Bible doesn't see us as body, soul, and spirit. Really, it sees the person. It sees the person. Might mention the heart of a person. It might mention the viscera of a person. It might mention the mind. In those senses, let the definitions be pregnant, okay, to bind the whole person. And that's what God is looking at, the entire person. I think we get, we do something wrong or we make a mistake and we see that as coloring our entire persona. But that's not how God sees us, okay? He sees us, he sees the real us, okay? He knows the real us. And that's what he's looking at, the righteous one, the one that wants to go straight, the one that wants to be a tzaddik, wants to be righteous, right? So that faith is wrapped up in all of that. And Romans and Galatians and Corinthians are talking about faith over and over and over. When the Son of Man comes to the earth, will he find faith on the earth? If you translate that faith, you've missed it. The answer is, will he find faithfulness? Will he find believers who have been steadfast? And the answer is yes. It's not a sad question. Okay, it's sad in the moment that people are of little faith, but there's going to be people with faith and steadfastness and confidence and trust and so forth until the Messiah comes. Okay, and we just want to be some of those people. So, in other words, try not. I know it's good for sermons, but it's really not the way the Bible works. Okay, if God is my fortress, He's also my rock. Okay, a fort. Okay, so you can say a fortress keeps you safe from the enemy. A rock, you're building on solid ground. You can do all kinds of things with it, but they're really all the same thing. The rock is the fort. God takes me to a higher place than I am. God takes me to a dry place. It's safety. It's not that difficult.
We try to make it so
We,
difficult.
what we do, we just squeeze it and squeeze it and squeeze it. And sometimes the text will give you a hint. There's something more here than meets the eye. Okay, that's okay. Okay. There'll be a context. Somebody asked me recently in Second Kings, what do you do with Elijah cursing the children, and then two bears come out of the woods and kill 42 kids? Well, first of all, that never happened. They weren't kids, they were young men full of themselves. They were idolaters. They were cursing Elijah. In other words, the word is not curse, it's kalal. They were making light of him, like, you old bald man, why don't you just go up like Elijah did so we can get rid of you?
Wow.
Okay? So they were despising the word of the Lord. And here come the bears, and here's young men. And of course, they're not going to be afraid of the bears because they're young men. And guess what? They should have been. Do you catch what I'm saying?
Yes.
So there's a context
Yes.
there that says, wait a minute. Children? Children are going to be denied. So you have to take a look. No, that's not what the word is. It's okay. The word means young lads. Okay, full of themselves.
Full of themselves.
Yeah.
All right. So here it is, verse 5. Now I want you to think about in chapter 2. I want you to think about, and you're going to see it develop. It's already been developed a little bit. What's going to happen? Okay, Habakkuk is miffed because there's the righteous who are being devoured by the unrighteous in Judea. Okay, and they are behaving, and what we're going to see this, they are behaving like the Babylonian Empire.
Mm-hmm.
They're greedy, they're riotous, they're drunkards, they're arrogant, they're murderous, they're merciless, they're compassionateless, they devour without conscience, they destroy. They're behaving like that. So the ones behaving like that are the very ones that are coming to destroy the Israelites that are behaving like that. Okay? And then the ones who are the model, the Babylonians, God will also destroy their arrogance and their mercilessness and their, okay? So both themes are working at the same time. That's part of the genius of Habakkuk. And then when we come to chapter 3, I mean, it's actually a study in the book of Psalms, and it's incredible. It's an incredible, just an incredible chapter. So look for that. Chapter 1 is the lament, of Habakkuk. Chapter 2. Now we're going to see these themes, these dual themes, and it's riddled with chiasm. I'm not going to go into every one; it just take us forever. But these A, B, C, B prime, A prime. Black, red, white, red, black. Okay, like that. It's just riddled with it. The whole thing is, it's scripted beautifully. I mean, it's written beautifully. So keep in mind that you're going to have to keep in mind, who's he talking about? Is he talking about the Israelites, or is he talking about the Babylonians? You're going to have to discern that because they act the same. Okay, they act the same.
What is his time frame?
7th century, before the early
before the
6th.
diaspora.
Huh?
But before
Babylonian
yes,
captivity. Yes, but it's not that far away.
Granted.
Okay, it's not that far away, but that's Habakkuk's lament.
So he's one of the early prophets then too.
Yeah, I would say so. Not as he's not as early as Isaiah or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So chapter 5, indeed.
Isaiah and Daniel were contemporaries.
No, Daniel's later. But Isaiah is like 8th century.
Ezekiel.
Ezekiel, he's later.
Sorry.
So, and also because the wine is treacherous, a man is haughty and he does not remain at home. Let's see here. Let me do the NIV. Indeed, wine betrays him. He is arrogant and never at rest, because he is as greedy as the grave, and like death is never satisfied. He gathers to himself all the nations and takes captives all the peoples. Now, who's he talking about? He's talking about Babylon.
Babylon.
Babylon is on the rise and devouring nations left and right.
Yeah.
But the people of Judah are behaving exactly the same to their own people, to the righteous. So the model is Babylon for the unrighteous, right? And in Revelation, it's no different. The model there, get out of Babylon. There's no real Babylon. It's just the world and the world system. Because Babylon's the model, exactly like this, treacherous and greedy and full of wine that weighs your conscience and gives you the ability to do things that normally maybe people wouldn't do. So yeah, okay. So this betrays. This boged is the same. It's the same verb as treacherous. Okay, so wine is like the Babylonians. Wine is deceptive. It's unreliable, right? It's drunk supposedly to enhance your life, but it impoverishes. It can confuse. It can destroy, and we see this from Proverbs all the time. It's strong drink, wine is strong. These are mockers. Okay, they mock you. They think you think, well, I'm having a great time. Meanwhile, you're driving down the road at 80 miles an hour and at 25 in the wrong lane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having a great time here. Yeah. Okay. So this particular verse has to do with what? Injustice. The injustice that Israelites are foisting upon Israelites. And what we're going to see is that when you take away someone's wealth, you take away someone's possessions in law, for example, it's equal to murder. Okay? You're murdering them. And so if the scripture says we're not to murder, then in a law case, we're never to take away everything that somebody has. People do, but that's not the Torah way. Okay, that would be one of those examples that we were talking about. How do you adjudicate? How do you determine which laws are relevant for today? A lot of laws don't apply, but so there are rules and regulations that absolutely would apply. And this would be one of them. Take away somebody's property, and you take away somebody's field. Leave their house, but take away their field. They're impoverished. They can't pay their mortgage. You've killed them.
Or like a toolbox, if they work out of
yeah. Take their toolbox, absolutely, or their car, or whatever it is. There's rules that go beyond what you can get, right? But the wine of the unrighteous doesn't have to be the literal wine. It can be the thing that makes them treacherous, the thing that makes them unreliable and as friends, for example. Our kids, they don't get this. They don't understand that who you associate with is who you're going to become. So they pick these horrible people, and they pick up a habit here and a habit there and a habit, and all of a sudden it's like, I can't believe I'm doing this. Well, they did it. Okay, and they've got a seared conscience. They're bothered by it. So the identity of the arrogant, the identity of the arrogance, clearly refers to the Babylonians, but as the Babylonians will be overthrown in their drunken state. Okay, in their unrighteousness. A drunken person can be overthrown like that. When you're unrighteous, the Bible says you're drunk. You're not reliable. You're not steady. And you are, no matter how safe you think you are ready to be overthrown. Okay. Nations can't seem to remember this. When you think nothing can get rid of us. We're going to be here forever. And you get
Yeah.
arrogant and God gets out of the picture and whatnot. You are ready for some big whipping.
Have you been
Yeah,
watching our
that's
daily
right.
news?
Yeah, that's
I'm
what I
just
was
saying
thinking.
Habakkuk
That's-
is just as relevant
Yeah,
today
it sure
as he
is.
was back then in terms of what he's warning us.
Edna just showed up.
Edna,
Beverly.
woo, yellow.
You got the
Look
memo.
at that.
Oh, I sure did.
All right.
Yes.
You said you'd be here. I was
Yeah,
surprised you weren't here.
yeah, we're real hard.
Okay.
I have to go home.
Nafsho is usually from nephesh, the soul. But here, notice in this particular verse, well, you might not notice. Yeah, it's translated as treacherous. That the soul, an unrighteous soul, is a treacherous soul.
Who you telling?
So a treacherous soul is, again, it's what? It's a drunken soul.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, we're in Habakkuk
Yeah.
2:5. Right, it's insatiable. The greed is insatiable. I've had a lot of millionaire friends. Like I've just had a lot of them, and most everyone is scared to death of the IRS coming in for some unknown reason. There's no real reason, but they're scared to death. I said, "What are you afraid of?" Well, you never know what's going to happen. I'd have made a mistake, and then we just have to throw as much money at them as possible. They have to guard everything so carefully, and then it's never enough. They can't retire because it's never enough. So that kind of a thing. I'm not saying it's wrong to be a millionaire. I wish we were all millionaires. You know?
Yeah.
I'm saying that when that drives us, that's part of the drunkenness. You know, anything that drives us outside of God's spirit and God's values and whatnot makes us drunk in the worldly sense and open to be overthrown, and will make us do things that we wouldn't ordinarily think of doing to self-preserve. You know,
Yeah.
So he's using different vices to kind of talk about that. I
Yes.
guess. Like it's,
these things
all the
really
same.
happen. They're all the same
we're splitting the vices up. They're all the same.
because they manifest. You know, it's like they
Yeah.
manifest
Say,
in different areas.
yeah.
You know, the unrighteous manifest in jealousy. The unrighteous manifest in envy. The unrighteous manifest in covetousness. The unrighteous manifest in taking everything that they can get from you, right? The unrighteous will put sawdust in your gas tank. You know? I mean, you know,
Sugar is much better.
sugar or whatever.
Oh, man.
I think it was sugar. Yeah, it wasn't sawdust. It was
Yeah.
sugar. So they'll do things like that. We had a guy. I knew a guy who was very wealthy, and you'd go on his car lot just for fun. Just for fun. I took a magnet one time. Most of his cars had no metal on them. He went to these auctions and he redid the body. He was a body man.
It's all Bondo.
It was unbelievable.
Bodies by Bondo.
Virtually nothing. No metal. I just ran the. It just wouldn't stick anywhere. So all right. All right. So notice here the grave Sheol. What is it? It's a place that grabs people. It's something that you don't have to. Is it hell? Yes. Is it the grave? Yes. Is it the pit? Yes. Is it the deep? Yes. It grabs prey. The grave grabs you, robs you of life. That's what the grave is. Okay. Think of Sheol that way. Hell is very simple. It doesn't need much explanation. Hell is what robs you of life, eternal. Okay?
Yeah.
It just robs you of life. All right. And that's what it says. Yeah.
It says, and he is like death, never seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The grave is never satisfied, right? It wants more, like the earth. The earth never has enough, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is political conquest. This is personal conquest. This is gathering. This is dominion. This is being dominant. This is pride. This is greed. This is aggression. This is an overshadowing of mortal conscience. All these things. So when we talk to people, it's probably better to show them that there's a world of light and a world of darkness, and we're going to see that in chapter 3. We're going to see that those are going to be very strong images in chapter 3. World of light, world of darkness, world of righteousness, world of unrighteousness. There's a darkness in the world. There's light in the world, and you don't have to be a genius to figure out which is which. You want to do what you want to do because you want to do it. Well, is that light or is that darkness? If you say it's light, show me how that's light. Okay? Show me how that will be light to you. Show me how that will satisfy you. Show me how that will not diminish you or kill you or somebody calling.
I just figured it was enhancing your. I thought you were music.
I was.
Strauss Walsh is all
I do.
It's starting to move there.
I do. Okay. So,
Yeah.
all right, verse 6. Actually, 6 and following, 6 to 8. Will not all of these take up a taunt song against them? I'll talk about that in just a minute. Even mockery and insinuations against them, and say, woe, hoy, there's that word, woe. Woe to him who increases what is not his. For how long? And makes himself rich with loans. You give loans, and then you give more. Remember when they were giving loans like water?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Your house would go up $50,000, and they'd give you 50, or they'd give you 45, just like that. Just write a check, and you get to a point where you can't pay that loan back anymore. So they take the house. That's what this is talking about. All right, which is against the Torah. Okay. Will not your creditors rise up suddenly, and those who collect from you awaken? Like you think everything's going along dandy, you keep borrowing from them and borrowing, and all of a sudden it's like they wake up and here it is. You know? And those who collect from you awake, indeed, you will become plunder for them, because you have looted many nations. Now, who is that? But it's also
The Israel
It's also-
unrighteous.
absolutely same thing. Okay. Indeed, you will become plunder for them, because you have looted many nations. All the remainder of the peoples will loot you. It's going to come right. That nation will rise up against nation. What does that mean? One nation will win, then it loses. Then the winner of that battle will lose. Then the winner of that battle until the Messiah comes. So there's no nation. I mean, we're praying for the United States, but there's no guarantee for any nation.
Wars and rumors of wars.
Yeah, wars and rumors of war. Just all the remainder of the people will lose because of human bloodshed and violence done to the land. Yeah. All right. So here are the woes. We have the woes surround like 5 sections. And again, I won't go into. It's just too intricate. But people who love that stuff would take out 2 weeks and outline it for you. And it's fascinating. This exists in commentaries. They'll actually outline it. In critical commentaries, they will outline these structures. And it's just mind-boggling that this guy had this kind of a mind that he could, under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, put this together like that. It's just genius, you know. So we've got these 5 sections. They're all woe sections, right? Woe. Because what? For what reason? Woe to you! For what reason? They're going to be singing the mashal for you. A mashal is a mocking song. Like you thought you were something, you're nothing. You thought you plundered nations. They're going to plunder you. Whoever's left's going to plunder you.
I bet you thought this song was about you.
Carly Simon.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Supposed to be against.
Yeah.
that was the Rolling Stones guy, right? It was supposed to be about him.
I thought it was supposed to be about Bob Dylan? No,
Oh.
no,
Oh,
no.
yeah.
She didn't.
Oh,
I'm trying to think of.
Ah,
Didn't matter.
didn't matter. It's a hit.
Yeah.
It's a hit.
So basically, it's a song to ridicule, right? A ridicule song is going to be sung against you, right? A riddle that's a scorn, right?
Yeah.
That's what, in the end, that's what's going to be written about you. Yeah, if people realize that their end is to be gone, and that all is left is mocking songs saying you should have known better.
Wow.
That's sad.
Rock. That is.
If I thought that was going to be my future, man, I'd do something
Man,
about
I
it.
would too. I'd do something to
You know?
change it.
I mean, there's something in us that
Ugh.
does not want to be forgotten. And psychologists tell you you've just got to accept death, you've got to accept termination, whatnot. But
Yeah.
everybody knows there's something in us that longs to live,
Yeah.
not just survive, mind you, but longs to live beyond the memories of people. And that's God. That's put there by God, right? To give us an understanding of eternity. I think of it this way, in the universe is supposed to be expanding, okay, and then slowing down, but we find it's actually speeding up. So something's propelling it. They say it's dark matter, okay, but whatever it is, we haven't discovered it yet. We don't know what it is yet. But clearly, on the outside, you would expect things to be simpler, right? Because they started their lighter elements, the heavier elements, the more complex things are going to be left behind as things cool. But the light things are blown way out there. Okay, so you don't expect a whole bunch of development. But guess what? With these new telescopes, we see further development out there than we do here, which means there was something before us. So now we're saying, not only is there a memory of that, but there's a reality of something existing beyond what we thought was measured time. And it excites us because it touches the desire for the eternal in us. And I don't discount that. I know a lot of people don't like to. They like to mix a little psychology and a little religion together. They never mix, really. They don't do well together. So this is
But
the
so
mashal.
you're saying that the 6,000-year universe is not exactly accurate.
I'm saying that however this universe got to be here, there was something before it. If a Big Bang happened, there was something before the Big Bang for sure. Otherwise, we wouldn't have these complex systems out there.
Unless if you take the Torah literally, God created it all and he spoke it into existence.
Okay. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of explanation. I'm just saying that for me, I'm
Too much of a
I was
scientist.
trained as a scientist. That's exciting to me. Okay?
Yeah.
And so I don't want anybody really to have merely the mashal sung about them. All these people. I used to love biographies. I mean, I just devoured them. But in the biographies, I learned about the person and the screen. Mainly movie stars. I loved movie stars. You read about their lives and what they really weren't. It just crumbles. And all that's left is this illusion of, they're just an actor.
Yeah.
Their real life was terrible.
Yeah.
That's
true.
And so there's a lament. Okay? And that's what's being said. Not only will Babylon be lamented in this taunting song, but also the unrighteous. That's all that's left for them. They think they're going to be remembered, but in the long run, the unrighteous, whoever that is, whether they accomplish great things or not, it's going to be a taunting song. I don't mean literally, but I mean that's all that's left is what a waste. Genghis Khan. You look at his life, you look at his accomplishments, you look at it from God's view. What a waste! All that talent, all that ability, all that, what a waste. destruction.
Yeah.
I think
All right.
about those commercials where people had been smoking and they're showing themselves in this just horrible state and saying, "Don't do this," but
Ooh, I
they were
know.
told not to do it too.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you were
It
told this,
shows.
and now they're just trying to tell other people are going to ignore them, and then they'll be on television later.
Yul
So-
Brenner, I remember Yul Brenner on the TV, just don't smoke.
Oh,
Well,
yeah. I
like you say,
remember that, yeah.
lament. We don't want the lament. So the crime is extortion. The crime is plunder. The crime is the wholesale destruction of mankind, the wholesale destruction of mankind's environment, and the pursuit of wealth. And that's what the Israelites are doing to one another, just like Babylon. Right?
Mm.
They're exploiting people, they're extorting, they're killing them, they're murdering them. That's what it says. This word abtit is used, and it is literally a cloud of dirt.
Hmm.
It's all a cloud of dirt, right? That's what you're wallowing in. All that you're doing here is nothing. It's not translated that way, but the literal translation would be a cloud of dirt, right? This particular thing. Yeah. So debtors, creditors, the creditors are defined as the people who are left, and the sentence is going to be carried out by the former victims of Babylon, right? Who's that going to be? The Medes and the Persians. Not even looking that far ahead, but the Medes and the Persians, they're waiting, they're lurking, they're gaining momentum, they're gaining power, and they're just like the Babylonians in terms of intent. Their methods are different in terms of government, but their intent is exactly the same. A worse people is going to come, and as bad as you are, people that are worse than you are going to come, stronger than you, and destroy you. Israelites, as bad as you are, worse people are going to come to destroy you and take you away. Right? Verse 9. Woe to him who gets evil gain for his house, to put his nest on high, to be delivered from the hand of calamity. You have devised a shameful thing for your house by cutting off many peoples. So you are sinning against whom? Yourself. Surely the stone will cry out from the wall, and the rafter will answer it from the framework. The very places that you live in, the very things that you gain for yourself will cry out as a witness against you. The house that you took by fraud in court, or banking practices that were unjust, or however it might be, or an inheritance that you stole. There's an old joke.
That's deep. And where is that? It say will cry back to you.
That is,
Verse 11.
11.
yeah, 9 through 11.
Wow. Surely the stone. So that's-
Okay.
Okay.
There's the story of the rabbi who's talking to a fella, and the fella says, all these families, they have fights, they have disarray. In our family, we don't have fights. We don't have dissension. We don't have these problems. And the rabbi looks at them and said, I guess nobody's died yet.
Yeah, really,
'Cause
boy.
We have seen
Ooh.
horrible,
Man,
horrible
yeah.
stuff. Okay? Merciless kinds of stuff that just, just unbelievable. But that which they gain is going to be the very stuff that cries out as witness against them.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
And it will be burned. Their houses were burned, by Babylon. And Babylon, their houses were burned by the Medes and Persians, in turn. It continues over and over. Whatever the gain here is associated with wrongdoing. It's wrongly gained gain, right? The whole idea that evil plots ruin, and no matter what it is, even if it's a little lie, That little lie plots ruin. Okay? If we could see it that way, we might see anything that's not of the Lord. And, ever since I've been listening to Dan Mohler, he's big on motive.
Mm.
And I've been seeing little things that I let go, Wow, that's terrible. It plots ruin.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's part of the dust, right? The dirt. Verse 12, woe to him who builds a city with bloodshed and founds a town with violence. It is not indeed from the Lord of hosts that peoples toil for fire, and nations grow weary for nothing. For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. The people do bloodshed. The deep people do mischief. But what's the end of it? The end of it is something eschatological and worth waiting for. The end will not be the ruin. The end will be that the da'at, the knowledge of the Lord, will be over all of the earth.
Mm.
For all of the ruin, for all of the negativity, why are we righteous? Why do we continue in righteousness and follow the Lord? Because that is what's going to last. Nothing else.
Yes.
That will last. The ruin will be ruined because evil plots ruin. The Lord of armies, Sevaot. The Lord is the sovereign ruler. He's the king. He's the commander, right? He's the commander over Israel. And he's not going to tolerate his subordinates giving evil instruction. The priests, the governors, the lawyers, right? The judges. When they do unrighteousness, he's not going to tolerate that in his kingdom. They will be judged eventually, right? Eventually. So Habakkuk is beginning to see the answer. The answer is, and he'll say it in a little bit. He's going to actually say it. I'm willing to wait it out.
Mm.
I have confidence. I know the Lord of hosts is going to be, he's going to be the last man standing. And I want to stand with him. Okay? So all of this waiting, all of this unrighteousness will fall. Eventually it will fall. Babylon will come. This will all be taken care of. Okay? We have to be the compassionate ones. We have to be the merciful ones. We have to be the ones that wait in patience. Okay? Because that's the only thing that's going to stand. And in chapter 3, we're going to be told why it will stand. We're given a definition of why God will be the last man standing and the righteous with him. Okay? So chapter 3 is really a glorious.
So don't miss next week.
No.
Yeah.
Is it going to rain next week?
Oh, no.
We're like the mailman. But I can see, you were saying people will sometimes just lay it out each woe and would take weeks or something like that, but I can see that. Why? It's a lot, it's packed.
Yeah.
When people suffer so much, they just wonder where God is. Okay, and that's Habakkuk's real question. Like, I know you're there, but you don't look like you're there. So what are you waiting for? But you're beginning to see. Now, look, he didn't sit down and write this and then, I get it. Oh, okay, I got that. In one sitting. This is the end result of his contemplation and God's answer. Okay, so that's another thing. It's not like he's, okay, my chapter today is really glum. I'm questioning God today. This week I've been questioning God. It's the compilation. Otherwise, it wouldn't be artful. It'd be just a hodgepodge of stuff.
He's got a stack of index cards with all these different notes on it. And then
Something like in his brain or something, and he's putting it all together. And so we see this. The Lord of hosts, the Babylonians have a big army, but the Lord of hosts has a bigger one.
Yeah.
Okay? And unrighteousness will never, in the long run, be able to stand up to righteousness. In the long run, it's not going to be the winner here, right?
3,000 years so far.
Yeah, but then you think about it, 3,000 years, what is that in comparison to 100,000 years?
Mm.
Okay.
That's
If
true,
I
yeah.
if I
True, too.
live till I'm 95, then what does that compare to 300 years ago, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago? Those people are gone. You know, Copernicus, great man, did a lot of great. He's gone. He's gone a long time, right?
Yeah.
I don't think about Copernicus every day.
Mm.
Few people do.
Yeah.
Only when you need to, right?
Yeah.
Grant and
There's a
Lee.
test question,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're
that's
gone.
about it.
Abraham Lincoln gone. Jefferson Davis gone. Right? George Washington gone.
Yeah.
His wooden teeth are gone. Okay. So in the long run, only the Lord of hosts and his army, the righteous, the glory of the Lord, the kavod. Kavod means that which is heavy.
Mm.
Oh.
Okay, literally, that which is heavy, that which is meaningful, that which has
Oh,
substance.
okay.
The Lord who has substance.
Wow.
Everything is nothing compared to it. You know, I was camping one time and I had a backpack on. It was like 10 pounds, and man, it was like, oh, this is terrible. I had a guy with me who had been to Vietnam and he was in the Marines. And he said, so you think that backpack of 10 pounds, you think that was heavy, huh? I think he said he carried 60 pounds or something
That's,
ridiculous.
that's a normal
Word.
combat load.
60 pounds?
Oh, no.
Like
But-
I didn't complain after that, I can tell you.
Yeah.
My stepson is a combat medic with the Marines, or was anyway, and he said that his the Marines loadout was about 60 pounds. His was another 30 to 40 because he had to carry all that stuff plus all the medical stuff.
Okay, so
So,
what's
yeah.
heavy to one person is not heavy to another person.
Mhm.
There are
Yeah,
things that are
that's
really
true.
heavy in comparison to other things. The Lord's kavod is really the heaviest thing
Oh,
compared to
yeah.
anything else. To anything else. I watched Oppenheimer last night until the first scene. I don't look. I should look at the ratings this way. But a first scene came up, and then I had to turn it off. But the thing is, it's about him, about his life, and there's mixed reviews on what his life was like. But he was a genius.
He didn't like his girlfriend. Huh?
I didn't like the way she was not clad. That's what I like. I
He
didn't know it was going to be that.
He
kind.
was dressed the same way in that scene. Robert and I watched it 3 days ago.
I'm just saying that the thing that was so big, this quantum mechanics, and the way he treated Einstein, and who never went for quantum mechanics, it wasn't nice. And so the point is that all of that was so heavy, but in comparison to the Lord of hosts, it's nothing. All of our wisdom and I don't say it, just to say it. It's not flippant in my mind. It's very meaningful that out of this whole tragic misuse of human beings and people exalting themselves and nations exalting themselves, out of that jumps immediately the Lord of hosts, and the knowledge, the art of the Lord will be upon the whole earth. Okay, that's the goal. That's what we're longing for. That's what's going to be the last man standing. It's not going to be your psychology. It's not going to be sociology. It's not going to be the armies of the earth. It's not going to be the wealth of the earth. It's not going to be a president or a prime minister or any of these things. The Lord of hosts and the knowledge of the holy is going to be here. Here's another woe, another section, verse 15, and that's through 17, I think. Woe to you who make your neighbors drink, who mix in your venom, even to make them drunk, so as to look on their nakedness. You will be filled with disgrace rather than honor. Now you yourselves drink and expose your own nakedness. The cup in the Lord's right hand will come around you, and utter disgrace will come upon your glory. For the violence done to Lebanon was a spectacular country with spectacular wealth. Just spectacular. Okay. And when Lebanon is mentioned, normally it's mentioned like Egypt is the archetype for evil. Lebanon is one of the archetypes for Israel and for good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I didn't know
Lebanon stands
Oh.
in for Israel. As
Wow.
later on, you're going to see Egypt stands in for Babylon. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Is it clear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
Son-in-law's
Lebanon
from
provided,
From Lebanon.
Mm.
Okay.
Well-
So,
well, I was gonna say, Lebanon provided all the wood
yeah.
Oh,
and most of the
yeah,
craftsmen
that's
for the building of
true.
Solomon's temple.
Yeah. It was a spectacular country.
Until war hit.
Huh?
Until the war came in.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Of
That's
course.
3,000 years later.
So-
Yeah, really.
Don't mention any of this to Robert.
What do you say?
Don't mention any of this to Robert.
I know.
So we have a new accusation. It's expressed by the image of inducing drunkenness
Wow.
with the result of to incapacitate
Yeah.
an individual, to humiliate and utterly make them vulnerable. Being in your nakedness is like the most vulnerable thing you could say. Okay, and so that's what's happening here. Making someone drunk with whatever, giving somebody evil values to make them rich. Look, I made it this way, you could make it the same way.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
join my group, we're more powerful than that group. We can go over there and destroy their machines, and they'll be out of business. Well, yeah, any number of things like that, right? So Babylon's motives is self-interest, totally self-interest. Okay, they seek their own kavod, right? But they want to humiliate their neighbors. Again, the Israelites, the unrighteous Israelites, are the same. They cause their neighbors, they cause other people to be helpless, humiliated, so that they can do what? Take advantage of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it the same as giving loan after loan after loan to bankrupt? Yeah, it's the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it the same thing about lying about somebody to diminish their reputation and be able to hone in on their business? It's all the same. It's different ways of doing it, right?
Yeah.
Destruction and violence is wrought on Lebanon. Lebanon the prosperous. Israel the prosperous. Israel at this time was very prosperous. They had plenty of money. There's plenty of commerce going on and whatnot, but there's war going to be waged on Lebanon, right? Lebanon first, as Babylon comes in, and Israel whisk away.
Wow.
Lebanon at the northern border means Israel as well. Okay.
Is this going back to his time frame? Is this roughly the same time frame as King what's his name and Jezebel?
Ahab.
Ahab. Yes, thank you.
It is
It's gotta be
a
close.
little later.
A little later.
A little later, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because Ahab and Jezebel, remember, that's Elijah's time. So that's going to be
Yeah.
a lot earlier. But same thing.
Same concept. Yeah.
Same concept, right? Look at the violence, Hamas, and destruction. So now Hamas today is from an act. It's not the same, But isn't it interesting that Hamas means destruction?
I think God orchestrates
Yeah.
all.
I think it's gotta be.
It's a wake up, right? It's like, there's
Hamas.
a wake up call.
I know.
Right? It's an acronym for their liberation group, whatnot. But
Yeah.
it means in Hebrew it means destruction and violence. Sod, Hamas, sod. You see the alliteration there. Right? It's purposeful when these things sound the same. Destruction and violence. What's going to happen is the Babylonians will cause destruction and violence, and then what happens? Upon Babylon will be destruction. Why do you mimic the people who are going to be destroyed? Why do you mimic the people who are going to come in and destroy you and then be destroyed? Why do you want the same history? Okay. And over, it just seems like people can't understand. You read the Bible, the Old Testament, and people read it, oh, look at this, what God did this, and God did that, and they don't see the evil of mankind is what God is trying to curb.
Yeah.
The destruction of the human race is what God's trying to prevent.
Yes.
All right.
Really?
So he produces a way of righteousness to limit evil. And so people don't do that way. And so there's unlimited evil, and you get a Hitler. Or you get a Stalin. Stalin killed 10 million, 15 million, I've forgotten how much, an enormous amount of Ukrainians, an enormous amount of Russians, just unbelievable, right? To keep his war machine going. Verse 18. What profit is the idol when its maker has carved it, or an image, a teacher of falsehood? For its maker trusts in his own handiwork. In other words,
Yeah.
the unrighteous have created a life in their own image, not in God's image, but in their own image. It's as if they had made an idol. They worship gold. They worship power. They worship jealousy. They worship mercilessness. They worship control. They worship,
Yeah.
idols. Woe to him who says to a piece of wood, awake, to a dumb stone, arise. And that is your teacher? Behold, it is overlaid with gold and silver, and there's no breath at all inside it. But the Lord is in his holy temple. Let the earth be silent before him. Like your idols that can't speak, why don't you shut up?
Yeah, really.
The Lord is in his holy temple. He speaks. You be silent. Listen. You're doing the talking for yourself and your idols.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the Egypt, the normal person wasn't allowed in the temple in Egypt. It was a dark place. Really, the temples were fairly dark. They had light, oil lamps and whatnot, but they were really dark. You could hardly see in there, and the people would leave food, and of course the priests would gather up the food, and the priests lived off of that and said that the gods feasted on their sacrifices and whatnot. But the people, all they had, they never seemed to be able to speak to the gods themselves. But the Israelites could. Even the normal Israelite could. Yeah, we see examples of it. David was a normal Israelite and heard God's voice as a shepherd. Yeah. Now he became something, I recognize, but he wasn't always king.
Right.
Right.
He was a shepherd,
Right.
and not only a shepherd, but a despised son. So, but he heard God. So the difference was that the personal individual could hear the voice of God and interact with the voice of God, right? So that's what we have here. So we have this break here in the denunciation of idols, which wood and stone, all these things, your gold and silver, it's just like wood and stone. It's just like the idols, the Asher poles, just like the idols that Babylon has erected that can't speak. Marduk, Ishtar, the moon god, all these idols that they've made, you've made, right? And so the idols are not going to help them in the long run. They will not prevent their destruction. Your idols will not prevent your destruction. Okay? So it's Babylon, and it's the unrighteous Israelites as well.
Yeah.
The idols cannot speak, right? The way they put this in Hebrew is this: Elohim, Elamim. Elohim, Elamim evokes kind of a babbling sound, blah, 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 like that, in the Semitic tongue. So it's like going blah, 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 blah. Okay? The idols go blah, 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 right? But they're Hebrew words here, but they converge to make nonsensical sounds. Okay? So that's what people are hearing. They cannot speak, right? The Elohim are worthless. They can say nothing. They battle. They babble. They don't trust, right? The teacher, they're your mored. They're your teacher. But they can't say anything. They can't teach you anything. You've erected them yourself. You're the teachers of your own selves.
Wow.
We have a breath problem here?
No, I thought smartest like
Oh,
my candy.
Lord.
Okay, so the Lord is in direct opposition to the babblers. Okay, people who think they make sense. Like I hate to put it on this basis, but the presidential race.
Well, yeah, that's,
From the kingdom's points of view, it's all babbling. It's blah, 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 blah.
yeah,
Then there's blah, 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 blah.
that's right.
Then this one goes blah, blah, blah. This one goes blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
And it's the same kind of slather over and over and over. Okay? He's bad, I'm good. He's bad, I'm good. And I mean, I'm making this too simple, and I recognize there are real issues
Mhm.
that we need to address. And so,
Yeah.
but from a kingdom standpoint, if we get wrapped up in that,
Oh, wow.
then we become part of the babbling, creating gods. And
Yeah.
instead of relying on God, Lord, we pray that you would interject into
Yeah.
this process and bring about what's best for our country.
Really.
In contrast to all of this, the idols staying in their place, the Lord is in his holy temple. Let the whole earth be silent before him.
Yeah.
Stop babbling and stop saying what your gods are talking about, because that's just babbling. It's produced the same result. If you look at history and the nations that have not followed God, even Israel,
Mm.
it's always destructive. So
Yeah.
doesn't that teach us
That's true.
something? Okay. How can the righteous live a happy life when they have nothing? Like somebody who's not rich, they live a nominal life, they have used cars their whole life, they can barely afford their mortgage, but there's a happiness, satisfaction within their soul. At least that's how it should be.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And that's a life worth living. Godliness with contentment is great gain. There's nothing wrong with being rich. I'm for that. But God is in his holy temple. Let the earth be silent
Yeah.
before him. I'm reticent to go into chapter 3. I don't think I want to. I'd like you to read it, but I want to give you
Okay.
some instruction. Okay.
Let's
So
read it.
let me do that. Let me. It's just some preparation. Okay. Let's see where a good one is. So take a look at Deuteronomy 33. Okay. And then take a look and
The
read.
whole chapter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It is. But you have a
Reading
whole
about your
you have a whole
homework
week,
I know, but you're
Right.
gonna fill up those other days pretty quick. I can see
Yeah.
that.
Psalm 18. Psalm 68.
Okay.
Psalm 77.
You're right, Dan.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm going to leave it at that.
What were they? So I got Deuteronomy 33.
Yeah.
Then Psalm
18.
18,
68,
Oh.
and 77.
68. All right.
Yeah.
So-
Okay. There are others, but I want to give you, utilizing what's been said before. Habakkuk is going to give you the reason why it's worth staying the course. Okay. What is there? We know we should stay the course because he's the last man standing. Okay. I want to be a winner. Okay. I want to be on the winning side. I want to be on the side that has wonderful, glorious songs to sing
Mhm.
about
Yeah.
God,
Mhm.
about the kingdom,
Mhm.
maybe about the history that we went through. I don't know what it's going to be like, but I want to do all that. But then there's another reason why God will be the last man standing. There's a reason why. There's a reason why the righteous always will win, right? And it goes back. Deuteronomy says it clearly, but the Psalms also allude back to that time. Okay, and so the Exodus is going to be, the Exodus and Sinai are going to be very important events that are going to describe in chapter 3, and Habakkuk will incorporate all of that language. Why the answer in chapter 2 is valid. Okay, and it has to do with the qualities of righteousness that Habakkuk has just enunciated in chapter 2. So a beautiful, really beautiful. And by the way, these themes run throughout the New Covenant.
Hmm.
Most of the epistles carry these kinds of themes. So when we talk about them next week, you're going to recognize some of the New Covenant themes and the language that's taken really from these kinds of books.
We're in the Job study I have in the morning. One of the things, I can't remember what Job 13 or 14 or somewhere around there. There was a messianic illusion. All right. And one of the women sitting behind me said, "Boy, that sounds very New Testament." And I didn't want to go there, but I wanted to say was it's really very Old Testament. The New Testament is very Old Testament, but it's nothing,
Yeah.
and there's not a whole lot that's new in the New Testament. I didn't want to go there.
Well,
The
it's
big
true.
thing that's new is the promise of being born again
Yeah.
fulfilled.
Yeah.
That in other words, reformation is no longer going to be the key, right? It's
Right.
transformation.
We don't have to kill a lot of animals to.
Right.
Mm.
Or be careful how you do things, to the degree that you don't do them like the pagans, because something now is working on the inside.
Mm.
A new desire, a lot of people will say, I know that this isn't that great for me, but I really like doing it. I said, well, the real you doesn't. And you're just not in touch in that area. You're not in touch with the real you. But I can guarantee you the day will come if you keep developing in the Lord, keep developing a strong connection. The real you will point that out to you.
Mm.
And it's going to seem odious to you. And you won't even
Yeah.
understand how you could have tolerated it. And that's what happens. So we always got to see the real person or the potential person that God sees.
Yeah.
That's what the God's.
Knowing that was God's intent from the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So if we keep our eye on that, we have hope in all kinds of situations. We don't write anybody off if they want to write
Because we're
themselves off.
made in his image.
Image.
Well, when we're born again, we're made in His image.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the unsaved have a potential of what they
Yeah.
could be like,
Mhm.
and if the Holy Spirit can get a hold of them and say,
I know.
this is what you could look like.
Amen.
Then it's
Yeah.
like, really?
Man,
Because I
that's
sure don't
true,
like myself
because,
right now.
Ugh, I can remember just stuff I thought was funny before I was a believer, and it makes me sick now.
Okay, because the
that's
real
same-
you didn't really like it.
Yeah.
Just
that's
well, thanks for
right.
joining us. I think that takes us to 8:02. So I'll have to cut 2 minutes off of
I
next
was
week.
just gonna say, you owe us too.
Oh, okay. All right, we're even then. We're even.
Yeah.
Join us Saturday 9:30 for our Torah study, 10:30 services, and then we've got lunch afterwards and Israeli dancing, and we've got teen class, and I think the Hebrew class is still
Yes.
Yeah, a couple more
a
meetings.
couple more meetings. Okay, so we'll see you then. Shalom.